Now I want to talk about the method that I discovered for propagating soft corals. Soft corals are so much harder than stony corals. I've got another video showing stony corals, how you simply embed the coral into a cube such as this while it's still wet, and then when it sets up it holds it really well. Soft corals, however, don't have a stony skeleton, and because of that you can't simply embed them when the matrix is wet. You have to come up with another system. And in fact, it took me 17 years to figure out how to do soft corals, and I consider it one of my best inventions. Beginning in December 1990, I started researching coral propagation, and it wasn't until 2007, April of 2007, that I finally figured out the tonal cube method. See that right there? It looks pretty simple, doesn't it? It's a cube with a hole in it. How in the world can that allow you to propagate soft corals? Well, that cube actually goes into a matrix such as this. Alright, so you can see each one of these holds a cube. This is actually holding 117 cubes. And the way I developed this was I researched what was causing the problem with stony corals, or with soft corals rather, and it was primarily the fact that if this was just a hole that was not open to the bottom, and I put a coral cutting in there, the bottom of it would not get any oxygen or water, and it would suffer tissue necrosis and it would die. So I thought, well, I need to figure out a way where the soft coral fragment is getting oxygen and water and everything while it's attaching. The problem is, if you put it just on a net like this, the obvious thing is, wow, the coral's just going to attach to the net, right? It's not going to attach to the stony, the matrix. It's going to attach to a net. You can see how this is made. It's got a net on the back side, and this is just holding the net on. And you notice that how it lines up. This egg crate on the back lines up completely so it doesn't block any of the holes. But here's what I found out in doing my research, and that is when you put the corals inside this system here, the corals will actually attach to the net first, and then they will move. They will move to more optimal conditions. They'll do it so slowly you can't even see it doing it. But they will move, and when they move up the walls of this matrix right here, and as they do, they attach to the wall. And that's why this method works. This is a Xenia colony. This is a mother Xenia colony right here. And if you look closely, you can see right here, this area right here, I did some cuttings on it just now. I don't know if you can see that or not. Yeah, so these have been cut here, and these have been cut. All of those will grow back in a really short period of time. So it doesn't do any permanent damage to the mother colony when you take cuttings like this. And that's true of virtually all of the soft corals if you cut them properly. And so what we have now is we have a whole bunch, maybe a couple hundred, of individual Xenia polyps. I don't know if I mentioned or not. This is probably either Xenia or Suspiciolaria genus. I'm not really sure which one it is. So these are individual corals now, and the trick is getting them to attach to this substrate right here. Okay? So what I'm going to do, it's real easy. I'm just going to show you. I'm going to put these in what I call the tonal cube, and then I'm going to set them aside and let them attach over a period of time. So all I do is I siphon up using my pipette. I siphon up a selection of Xenias. You don't want to get too many of them because you don't want them. You can do one per hole, but if you've got plenty, you know, go ahead and maybe put one or two per hole. What you want to make sure is you'll notice that there's no detritus in the water here, and that's really important. It needs to be just the soft coral cuttings. Because if you get detritus, what happens is the detritus decays. And when it decays, it starts a chain reaction and causes tissue necrosis. Now, I don't even know if the video can pick this up. These are so small. In fact, it's hard for me to keep track of them. I'm going to put my glasses on. Okay, that's much better. Am I on camera? No. Alright. Can you see this? Yeah. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. So what I'm doing is in each hole I'm putting one or more of the Xenia cuttings. Now the important part in the cutting is you got to get the basal tissue. Basal tissue is that part where that attaches to the rock, and also it's the part that attaches to the tentacles. If you just get tentacles, it's not going to work. Tentacles apparently don't have the kind of tissue that usually leads to regeneration, whereas basal tissue always leads to regeneration. And these are super small Xenias. This is a blue Xenia, I believe. Once this attachment happens, these guys will grow really fast and they will completely cover this plate. And then what you can do later on is you can pop out each individual cube, and you can plant the cube individually on the reef, or you can put it in a bigger rock and grow it out further. You can even mix it with other corals if you're doing ornamentals, if you're doing it for the hobby. Got to make sure the net size, the pore size of the net is larger, or else these guys will fall through. And this is kind of on the edge here, because these are really tiny Xenias. I'm going to decant some of this water. Yeah, this is going to be a nice plate, I can tell. Every soft coral is different. This cutting size is different. The amount of time it takes for it to attach is different. Xenias are one of the easiest ones to do, and they attach, they're one of the fastest ones to attach. Some of these guys will be attached within just a few days, actually. Alright. Really big piece there. Try not to get any detritus. Alright, any open holes? It doesn't matter where they go in the hole as long as they're just in the hole. Oops. You don't want them on top because I'm getting ready to put another net on top. These pipettes are great. Alright, so everybody, make sure everybody's down below. You can actually squeeze a little water on if you want. Somebody's reluctant. Let's see, who's still above? You're above. Okay, so the great thing about these tunnels is they're going to get oxygen and water from all directions. There's not going to be any part of their tissue that is in a anoxic zone, a zone that doesn't have oxygen. All of the areas will have oxygen, okay? Alright, so now what you want to do is Place a net on top. Okay. Now I'm going to remove these rubber bands because if you don't, it's going to leave a gap, and that gap can cause the Xenias to slip between the plate and the net. So don't move it once you start cutting these rubber bands. Don't move it because it's going to mess everything up. All right, I am on a boat here, so it's rocking a little bit, and I apologize for the video. I can't edit this video because I don't have that capability on my boat yet, anyway. So then you take another plate, empty 133 egg crate. Remember, very important, keep it together. Keep pressure on it, all right? And make sure it's lined up. And then just put the rubber bands on at least 4 sides.